For decades, a supercar meant beauty and performance, but also compromise. They were fast, exotic, and dramatic, but you paid the price in more ways than one. They were cramped, hard to see out of, and almost expected to break down. That was part of the mystique. Then came Honda. A company known for Civics and Accords, cars that were brilliant at being reliable, but maybe a little boring. And suddenly, they built a supercar, one that was light, precise, comfortable, and dependable. One of the greatest drivers ever, Senna, personally signed off on its handling. MotorTrend called it the greatest sports car in the world, full stop. And yet it failed. Most of them sold in the first 2 years, and then demand dried up. So how did Honda build a car this good, maybe the greatest ever, and still watch it flop?
At Acura, we believe that the best way to discourage limited thinking is to design cars in an environment without limits. The NSX, precision-crafted performance from Acura.
By the end of the 1980s, the supercar world was still dominated by the Europeans. Ferrari had just retired the 328 and replaced it with the new 348, a mid-engine V8, making about 300 horsepower and capable of almost 170 miles an hour. Porsche still had the 911, a car with decades of pedigree, but also the same quirks of the rear-engine layout. Lotus had the Esprit, sharp in the corners, but fragile and costly to maintain. And then there was Lamborghini, with the Countach. Wildly styled, loud, and dramatic. It was every kid's poster car, but driving one was more punishment than pleasure. The cabin was cramped, visibility was almost non-existent, and reliability was questionable at best. That was the world of supercars at the time. They were fast and exotic, but living with one was another story. Reliability was inconsistent, ergonomics were an afterthought, and maintenance could drain a bank account. But here's the thing, that was part of the appeal. Owning a Ferrari or a Lamborghini meant accepting, even wanting, a little pain. A breakdown on the side of the road wasn't a deal breaker. It was almost a badge of honor. It reminded you, this wasn't just another car. It was a hand-built machine from Italy, full of character, flaws and all. Honda's reputation couldn't have been more different. In 1989, they were best known for Civics and Accords, cars that were efficient, reliable, and easy to live with. The Accord was the best-selling car in America that year. Acura, Honda's new luxury brand, was only a few years old, but was already gaining traction with the legend and intent. And while their road cars were sensible, their racing program was anything but. Honda engines were winning Formula One championships year after year, from 1986 to 1991. With that combination, practical cars on the street, and dominance on the track, Honda decided it was time to take a shot at the exotic market. But they weren't interested in building another fragile showpiece. The mission was different, match Ferrari and Lamborghini in performance, but deliver a car that was reliable, comfortable, and easy to drive. A supercar that wasn't just good at being fast, but good at being a car. That's the stage the NSX stepped into, a world where drama and compromise were the norm, and Honda's idea of precision and usability was about to flip the script.
The Acura NSX. It's what happens when you chase a dream instead of the competition.
When Honda set out to build the NSX, they didn't think of it the way Ferrari or Lamborghini thought about supercars. They weren't aiming for the wildest shape, the loudest exhaust, or the highest price tag. They approached it the way they approach everything, like engineers. And in Honda's world, the first principle was the same one they lived by in Formula One. Weight is everything. In racing, every gram you save pays you back in speed, braking, and cornering. That philosophy shaped every single design choice on the NSX. Most supercars of the late 80s were built on steel. It was strong, it was proven, but it was heavy. Honda made a bold call, ditch steel entirely, and build the world's first production car with an all-aluminum monocoque. Nobody else had done it. The structure used aluminum extrusions, castings, and sheets, all working together in ways that hadn't been attempted at scale before. It was such a step forward that Honda had to invent new welding and forming techniques just to make it possible. The payoff was huge. The body shell weighed only 462 pounds, barely more than a Mazda Miata's steel shell, even though the NSX was a much bigger car. Add in aluminum suspension arms, brackets, and subframes, and the weight savings up to nearly 440 pounds over a steel equivalent. That lighter structure didn't just make the car quicker, it made it more responsive, more comfortable, and more durable, because the suspension and brakes didn't have to fight so much mass. Honda didn't stop at lightness. They also pushed stiffness. They used a Cray 2 supercomputer, the fastest in the world at the time, to model the chassis and hunt for weak points. But computers can only tell you so much. That's where Senna came in. At the time, Senna was at the top of his game in Formula 1, winning championships with Honda power. Honda gave him an early prototype to drive. Senna's verdict was blunt. The chassis was too fragile, too much flex. It might have been fine for a normal road car, but not for a car wearing a Honda badge. Honda listened. They set up camp at the Nürburgring, with Japan's first F1 driver, Satoru Nakajima, pounding lap after lap. Every time they found a weakness, engineers reinforced it on the spot, then sent the data back to Japan. This cycle went on until the car was completely transformed. By the end, the NSX's chassis was 50% stiffer than the Porsche 911 or Ferrari 328 of the day. Senna later called it the car that gave him a new appreciation for road cars. Coming from him, that was high praise. And then there was the suspension. Double wishbones all around, forged from aluminum to save unspun weight, and tuned carefully to keep the tires square on the road, through bumps and body movement. Most sports cars of the time were twitchy and unpredictable at the limit. The NSX was stable, balanced, and easy to trust. Qualities that mattered just as much for everyday driving as they did for track days. The engine followed the same philosophy. Honda experimented with bigger V8s, turbocharged V6s, and even a supercharged design. All were rejected because they added too much weight or dulled the response. In the end, they went with a naturally aspirated 3-liter V6. On paper, 270 horsepower didn't look like much compared to a Ferrari, but the way it delivered that power was revolutionary. Titanium connecting rods let it rev cleanly to 8,000 RPM. VTEC, originally intended only for Honda's 4-cylinders, was demanded by Soichiro Honda himself after hearing a prototype that lacked it. Combined with a variable intake system, the engine pulled strongly at low RPM, yet screamed at the top end. It was smooth, responsive, and light, exactly what Honda wanted. And here's where Honda separated itself even further from the pack. The NSX wasn't just a machine for lap times. It was designed to be a good car. That meant you could see out of it, thanks to an F-16 fighter jet style canopy, with slim pillars and wide glass. The driving position was perfect, with pedals, wheel, and shifter all where they should be. The climate control worked. The seats were comfortable. The trunk could hold luggage. These were things Ferrari and Lamborghini didn't bother with, but Honda insisted on them. Even the steering wheel showed the same balance. Manual NSXs didn't have power assist, because the car was light enough not to need it. That gave incredible feedback, without the heavy workout of a Countach or 348. And despite being a true supercar, the NSX was happy to idle in traffic, stay cool on hot days, and start every morning without complaint. When the NSX launched in 1990, the effect was immediate. Against Ferrari's 348, it was quicker, grippier, and stopped shorter. Reviewers couldn't believe how usable it was. MotorTrend called it the best sports car the world has ever produced. Anytime, any place, any price. Buyers agreed. There were 2-year waiting lists, and cars sold above sticker. The NSX's secret sauce wasn't just one thing. It was a sum of all those Formula 1 inspired decisions about weight, rigidity, and responsiveness, blended with Honda's insistence on comfort, reliability, and practicality. It proved that you didn't need to suffer for a supercar. You could have speed, precision, and drama, and still drive to the grocery store.
I saw an NSX the other day.
No.
I did, because it's not a big seller, is it?
No. Put it this way, they had a bumpy year last year, and they sold 23.
For all the praise and hype, the NSX sales didn't last. In the first 2 years, Honda sold more than half of all the cars it would ever make. After that, demand collapsed. By year 3, the factory was running at less than 10% of its capacity. Ferrari, the very company Honda had set its sights on, was outselling the NSX 10-1. So why did it fail? The simple answer is that it was almost too good. Buyers in that segment weren't just paying for numbers on a spec sheet, they were paying for drama. Ferraris might have been slower, less reliable, and far more expensive to own, but they felt like an event. The noise, the quirks, even the breakdowns all reminded you that you were driving something special. The NSX, by contrast, was calm, rational, and easy to live with. That sounds like a win, until you realize that rationality isn't always what supercar buyers want. Years later, Richard Hammond said something similar when reviewing the Lamborghini Aventador. He admitted it felt like driving a big Audi, and he wasn't sure he wanted a Lamborghini that didn't at least try to kill him. The same mindset applied in the 1990s. People didn't just want performance, they wanted danger. Car and Driver nailed it at the time by calling the NSX a brain surgeon's approach to going fast. It was clinical, precise, and surgical, but maybe, for the market, it was too clinical. Buyers already had practical daily drivers in the garage. When they bought a Ferrari or Lamborghini, they wanted something with rough edges. The NSX was almost too perfect to feel exotic. But that's not the whole story. In hindsight, the NSX didn't fail at all. It forced Ferrari, Porsche, and everyone else to step it up. Many point directly to the Ferrari 355 as Maranello's answer to the NSX. And today, the very qualities that hurt sales, its balance, reliability, and usability, are exactly why enthusiasts love it. It's one of the only exotics from the 90s that you can actually own and drive today without fear. So yes, by the sales numbers, it failed, but its influence says something else. The NSX changed what we expect from a supercar.